Hello and welcome. Moving straight on with your comments, and we'll talk about some of the questions that you very kindly sent in. This I missed from a previous comment last week. I didn't see this extra paragraph saying, could someone recommend a good online source for sangha activities? I would really appreciate it. I prefer a Theravada group. Okay, so here, I don't know whether you consider this as sangha activities. I'm not entirely sure exactly what those would be, activities, but we discuss, as we are here, comments and questions sent in, topics of Dharma, and a little bit about monastic life, living as a monk in the Theravada tradition. There are various groups you can Google. I don't know where you are. In the UK, there is the Buddhist Society. That's all I can recommend as far as lay people's online groups are concerned. And on YouTube, so this platform, I don't know the name of them all, but there are some various channels a little different to this, where they have more of an interactive discussion. Now, the way this is done is by way of live streams, live broadcasts, unlike this, which is recorded. Primarily because they are located in the West, and where most people watching, being this is English spoken, as are they, their time zones are more in line with live streaming. For me to do that, I'd have to get up in the middle of the night, and I only sleep in the middle of the night anyway, so it's hard to find a good time to suit all. Maybe I'll try and work something out with your suggestions, but interactive discussion where you can make your comments and they're replied to live. Find similar channels to this that are based in the West. If you're in America, ones that are based in America. If you're in Europe, ones that are based in Europe, where you can have that interactive, maybe Zoom or other platforms. I don't think that's very helpful, but hopefully since that comment was posted, other people may have been of more assistance to you than I can be with regards to that. Should people charge money? Lay people charge for their services and abilities. For example, a plumber, electrician, bricklayer, etc. There are people who charge for their psychic abilities and have a genuine ability. They need to earn a living too. It's up to people if they wish to pay. Yes, that's it. It's up to people if they wish to pay. But if you're paying for a plumber, an electrician or a bricklayer, you're going to have either testimonies of previous customers, or indeed seen their work, or at the very least at the end of their work, when they present you with their invoice, see the tangible results of their efforts, what they're charging you for. Anyone purporting to have psychic abilities has to have your trust and belief in those abilities, which cannot necessarily, if I dare say even ever, be proven. So you're paying for somewhat of an unknown quantity. But as you quite rightly say at the very end of it, it's up to you if you wish to pay, where you want to spend your hard-earned money. If you want to give it to people whom have or purport to have these abilities, then it is entirely up to you. Yes, maybe they need to earn a living too, but I would question that if someone with such psychic abilities that are that are evident, would they really need to earn a living by charging other people in that way? There are ways with psychic abilities one could make a very significant living, even within the guidelines of right livelihood. to some extent, it's a bit of a grey area, by just having those psychic abilities. One could make money without having to actually take money directly off of other people. For instance, forex trading or trading on the stock exchange or something like that. With psychic abilities, you surely would have no questions. You could see what was going on, what was behind the other traders' backgrounds and minds. But then you're venturing into the realms of gambling, and you know, in gambling, although one might consider it as not necessarily morally wrong, the Buddha didn't consider it as wholesome. He counted it as one of the 6 ways to easily lose money, but more importantly, lose virtue, really, by way of, in any form of bet, in any form of gamble, there has to be a winner and a loser. That is always the case. So whatever money you're making, you're taking it from someone else who is not going to be so happy. You might not also have such great satisfaction in earning a living that way. I'm a little distracted because I have one of these wonderful water monitors now walking around in the trees there. Excuse me for that. So anyway, that's going back on an old comment. I think I'm going back in time a little here. Hopefully we will catch up. Someone struggling with meditation these days, and then getting tired, falling asleep. And the meditation melts into dreaming. It's so terribly frustrating since I've not had this trouble until recently. Okay, well, yes, after a time, you know, any one of the 5 hindrances, one of which is they refer to in a very old-fashioned English term, sloth and torpor, but tiredness or laziness, the third of the 5 hindrances. Just to remind you, the 5 hindrances are sensual desire, ill will, sloth and torpor, restlessness and worry, and doubt. They're the real 5 obstacles that get in the way of our practice, not just sitting in formal meditation, but throughout all of our daily activities. These are obstacles in the way of our progress, not only in the Dharma, but in success in life. For instance, if you're of a lazy, tired nature, you won't do so well at work as if you have energy, virility, and motivation, self-motivational skills. So one has to build self-motivational skills into meditation also. And this will always come from those results that you get. Like I was just saying, if you earn money through sort of dubious ways, it's not very motivating power to force you on to earn much, to continue earning more money and doing better and better. If you earn your money in wholesome ways, then you have much more gratification and you're more inspired to go on and continue doing that. The same with meditation. When you sit to meditate, if you are having seen the results in your everyday activities, having practiced meditation before now, you have something to look forward to. You have something that is payback for your efforts in sitting, keeping your mind centered on one object of meditation, and using this time effectively to allow the mind to settle and become calm, tranquil, peaceful, and eventually enjoy your meditation. We need to enjoy our meditation, and we need to enjoy and understand and see the results of our meditation to motivate us, which will give us the energy and keep us awake. Now, one way to do this and to keep a continual monitor on this aspect of your practice is to ensure that you are practicing mindfully continually throughout your daily activities. We don't go about all of our daily activities here and there doing this and that and the other, and then just sit and meditate and that is our practice. No. We sit and meditate and we take from what we've gained in that meditation into our daily activities of doing this, that and the other, and we use the skills of being focused on one object to stay focused on the matter in hand of what we're doing. So if we're washing up, we're washing up, we're feeling the bowl or the plate or the knives and the forks, the cutlery, as we're cleaning it, the water, the soap, and we're mindfully paying attention to that we're doing. We're not thinking about what we're going to be doing later or what we were doing earlier. We're mindfully keeping our attention on the activity in hand. This is mindfulness. This is sati. This is continually reminding yourself, recalling that you must come back to this present moment here and now. This practice of mindfulness throughout your day, sati, leads you to better be able to apply your mind to focusing on one meditation object and developing samadhi, which will bring in turn all of the beneficial results of physical rapture and joy and mental happiness and calm and peace. This is why we meditate initially, to have that calm and peace, but not just at the end of the hard day. It may begin, that may be how we came into the practice. We've had a stressful day or a week at work. We now want to sit and meditate to get over it all. It can do that also, but that isn't the ultimate goal. We want this practice to be a part of our lives continually. Now, firstly, with regards to your problem of becoming tired all of a sudden and drifting off to sleep, firstly, make sure you're having enough sleep sufficient for your requirements. Working people, I would imagine, probably need 6 to 8 hours sleep each and every day, every 24 hours. If you are a monk or a nun and all you're doing is practicing, we can do with a lot less sleep. I sleep considerably less than that, usually four hours. I mean, at most, especially with these very hot climates at the moment, one can sleep a little bit longer, maybe, or even have a little nap in the afternoon. I'm not inclined to do that so much myself, but it's perfectly acceptable if you wish to. But 4 to 6 hours is sufficient if you're just leading a life of practice. Say you're retired, a layperson, and just practicing meditation and studying the Dharma. So you need less sleep, but make sure firstly you're having sufficient sleep. Make sure you're having sufficient nutrition, food, but make sure you're not eating just before you meditate. You should have a good few hours gap between eating and meditating. If you come home from work, sit down to a big dinner and then meditate, yes, you'll fall asleep. If you meditate after lunch, yes, you'll fall asleep. In fact, it is better to meditate whilst you're hungry. This keeps you awake. If you have hunger pains, actually we're coming on to excuse me, hunger pains a bit later, so I won't go into that in detail now. But yeah, it's all about a balance. The middle path is all about the middle path, just that. Keeping it somewhere in the middle. Not eating too much, not eating too little, not sleeping too much, not sleeping too little. If you try all of these things and they don't work, then you can try some exercises during your meditation, like opening your eyes, looking at some bright light, for a while. But bear in mind, doing this is stopping and restarting your meditation. A trick, or even mentioned by the Buddha, it's not just a trick, pulling your ears thus. Seems a bit strange, but it does apparently work. But your posture, ensure you are sitting upright like this, your back straight, ears in line with your shoulders, in line with your elbows, in line with your hips, and you're not leaning this way or that way on anything, not too many cushions, really not too much, if any at all, comfort, just what your body needs to be okay, just right, again, in the middle path. If that fails, get up, stop your sitting and do walking meditation. Practice walking meditation for 20 minutes and return to sitting. Sit for 40, walk for 20. Or if you're sitting for 20, walk for 10. And alternate. Eventually you'll get back into the pattern that you were in before, because you do say you had no trouble before. Are stimulants not against the 5th precept? No, not well. Don't get addicted to coffee. I need a coffee, otherwise I can't meditate, or I can't do anything in my day before I've had my first cup of coffee. That is a kind of caffeine addiction, I suppose, or just a habit, really. Not so much a physical addiction, but a habit. Well, I think it could be a slight addiction with caffeine. Anyway, again, the middle path. It's okay to have a cup of tea in the afternoon, a cup of coffee in the afternoon, especially if you're on 8 precepts and you can't eat after midday, afternoon, then you are only really able to have drinks. So you may have some coffee, which is of course a stimulant, tea, which is of course a stimulant, and somebody says here and they recommend green tea, something like that, and you may even have some sugar in it to give you some energy, a little boost, in case your little blood sugar levels are getting a little low and you're maybe feeling a little bit not so much tired, but a little bit faint, a little bit weak, a little bit dizzy. This can happen if you are not eating in the afternoon. But if you're following your ordinary 3 meals a day kind of standard of living, then that shouldn't be a problem. But still, the odd cup of coffee, cup of tea, even, try to avoid energy drinks, but sometimes that's all that's available and maybe you need a little boost. Stimulants aren't breaking the 5th precept because they're keeping you alert, whereas intoxicants such as alcohol or drugs, marijuana, dull the mind, dull the senses, and have the negation. They negate mindfulness. They make you heedless, as opposed to, it actually says in the precept, refrain from intoxicants which lead to heedlessness, being the opposite of mindfulness. So if you take intoxicants, you will become the opposite of mindful, you will become heedless. And this is what is to be avoided and why intoxicants are refrained from. But the odd cup of coffee is okay. But again, with caution, Okay, there is a question at the end of here. Not really, no question there. Where is this? Oh, well, I'm not sure what video it relates to. I think actually, if I remember right, it might have been India. If you go back through the videos, I think it says somewhere in the description of each video where I am at the bottom. I always have to put this in when I upload it, so it must appear somewhere. If not, it does it automatically, but it has a location. But usually I'm in a place for quite a while. So I've been in Sri Lanka now for 7 months. Before that I was in India for 3 months. Before that I was in Thailand for 7 months. And you can go back chronologically through. As you see, the backgrounds don't change a great deal when I'm in one place. I do try, but at the moment it's too hot to go outside. So I'm afraid this has become a little bit of a boring background for you. Maybe as it cools down a bit, we can go back to the more interesting backgrounds. And also, if I turn the camera around to show you the lovely view in the background there, I can't really get the lighting to work so well. It'll either blank the background out or me out, so I don't know what matters really. I should just turn the video off and have sound maybe. Or nothing at all. I could just write it all down, couldn't I? So where is this? That was probably India. Anyway, wherever I am, it's much the same. You'll see me sitting in the same kind of place really, because the background actually is quite interesting if you go back through all the old videos to look at the I haven't been through the old videos, but I was looking at some old photographs of the different places, which are many that I've stayed over the last 5 years or so, and that's a lot of places. But actually, if you look at the photographs, they're all more or less exactly the same, because a little kuti such as this doesn't change much, and what I have is always the same. These 3 robes, this sitting cloth, my bowl there, and if I'm lucky, as of today, I've got a fan, electric fan there to keep me a little cooler. Oh. I don't think we need to go into the whole meat-eating vegetarian thing. I appreciate your comment. May I ask if you eat meat? I'm an ethical vegan. So the answer is no, I don't eat meat, and I'm a vegan. I'm not an ethical vegan. I'm a vegan because it's more practical for me not to eat, and cheaper for me not to eat meat. In fact, though, I've been a vegetarian for so long, I don't think I even like meat anymore. If it appears in my alms bowl, I give it to the cat or something like that. I don't eat it. I don't find it doesn't, I don't crave after any kind of meat. Dairy products, they are just impractical if you don't have fridges, and we're not allowed to store food overnight anyway. But we can't have those after noon. Some monks and what have you eat cheese and things like that, but I've just found it simpler to avoid those, and eggs also. But I can live happily off rice and dal and vegetables. I've been doing so for a long time. It's a practical, cost-effective way of living. So I can't boast that it's at all ethical in any way. But I know that I'm doing no harm by living that way. I have heard of monks who eat meat. It is given to them from lay people. Yes, because that's perfectly fine. And a monk said to you that he didn't ask the lay people to kill it for him. That's because we mustn't obviously do that. That would be tantamount to killing ourselves karmically. And you can't eat meat or understand that at all. Well, that's fair enough if you're a staunch vegetarian. I mean, frankly, I really used to eat a lot of meat many years ago. I've been a vegetarian, I think, for now, I don't know, nearly over 10 years, 12 years. And I used to eat meat, but even before I became a vegetarian, I gave up eating red meat, so cows, beef. But now when I see someone eating a rare steak, well, I don't ever see anyone eating a rare steak, but if I imagine myself, as I used to, eat a rare fillet steak, which was actually had blood coming out of it on the plate, imagine that. I cannot imagine it very well now. It's abhorrent to me. But I used to, over 10 years ago. This is how we change so much in our lives, isn't it? Even our tastes. This is how working, living, practicing in this way, we eventually go about reducing desires. Because I'm sure there was a time in the past, because let's face it, a fillet steak, even back in the past, wasn't a cheap meal, but I would have had immense craving and desire for such food, to have been prepared to spend a lot of money. After all, I can live now for very little financially, even if I was paying for my own food, by comparison to eating, say, fillet steak and asparagus and hollandaise sauce and all of these things, and things that I don't eat now so much, at all. But I don't even desire that now, because you are training your mind as well as you're training your body to get used to the change in nutrients. You're training your mind to get used to the change in what stimulates it, to benefit from the stimulation of simple gratification that one gets through meditation, through watching the breath, through the simple pleasures of physical rapture, through samadhi and happiness, piti we call that, and sukha, happiness, in your mind, with tranquility and peace of mind. What language is this? That's referring to the chanting, so that's Pali, the Pali language, which is the language of Theravada Buddhism, as opposed to Sanskrit, which is the language of Mahayana Buddhism, often called the Northern School and the Southern School, because of geographical reasons. If you go north of India, basically it's Mahayana, south of India, Theravada. You can draw a line more or less. Burma, Theravada, Thailand and those countries, and Sri Lanka here, Theravada. Upwards of that we go into Mahayana Buddhism. Although there's Mahayana Buddhism everywhere, as well as Theravada everywhere. But originally this is how it changed culturally and also linguistically, picking up these different languages. I won't go into all that now because I've spoken a bit before, but the language you hear in the chanting is the Pali language, and we as our scriptures have the Tritipika, which is the Pali the Tripitaka, which is 3 baskets, the Pali canon, because it's in the Pali language, the scriptures, the Buddha's suttas, the words of the Buddha, the Vinaya, so there's Vinaya Pitaka, the sort of rules and regulations and moral code for monastic life, the Sutta Pitaka, which is the teachings of the Buddha, and then the Abhidharma, which are kind of referred to as the higher teachings from the Buddha, are the 3 baskets of the scriptures, and they are it's called the Pali canon because they're in the Pali language, which is an ancient Indian language. This keeps missing maybe questions. No, maybe not. Yeah, that's where is your language. Okay, do you miss your sangha? Well, no, I don't miss them. I'm in touch with my upachaya, my teacher, whom we take dependence. Actually, not so much directly. It's very rare that a bhikkhu is in touch with their upachaya. You normally have an appointed teacher for day-to-day conversational matters and help and assistance. So I'm in touch with the sangha, my sangha as you refer to it, which actually is in India. Now, a sangha is quite a fluid thing. It's a bit like if you think of a river, you look at a river, it's just a river, the same river. The river Ganges, the river Thames. I don't really know many other rivers, but they just look like a river. But they are water that is continually flowing, different water. It's never the same water, is it? Maybe eventually it goes around the cycle and it's the same. And that's very much the same as the sangha. If you look at the sangha of monks in my monastery in India, which is a good example because there are at any point in time about 20 to 30 bhikkhus and about anything from 60 to 80, maybe even more, samaneras and anagarikas, people training to become bhikkhus. So it's a large organisation, and it looks the same when you see it each Sunday on their live stream broadcasts. It's the same sangha. Now there are some familiar faces continually there, yes indeed, but the majority of it is continually changing. There are monks going here and there to other branches within India, and worldwide sanghas similarly. Sanghas like my home country, the Forest Sangha, the Thai Forest Sangha, affiliated to the Ajahn Chah group of monasteries, are moving from branch to branch, country to country, for varying reasons continually. So the content of the sangha is always different, ever changing, as are you. You're like a part of that, an ingredient. So I've lived in, as I just mentioned, various different places, many over the last few years. But I don't miss it because you don't become, you think of it as your home sangha, your birthplace or your home village or native place. Some family people refer to it in India. My native place is where I come from, where my main family are. You think of it that way, but if I was to go there tomorrow, it would be different monks to the ones that I saw when I was last there 6-7 months ago. So from that point of view, and a sangha, well, they're there to support me in the same way from a distance as if I am there. We don't sit down having a natta, talking sampapalapa, useless speech, is the Pali word for useless speech, if you like. We only talk about what's necessary. Mostly we're practicing noble silence, and there's little need for interaction of conversation all of the time as one might do in normal household life or in the workplace, for instance. So if you're in a workplace and you become familiar with all of your friends at work, and then you move to a different office, it takes a little while to become accustomed to the new faces, the people you meet. But when you move to another monastery, there's a little bit of that, but not so much, because you're all doing the same thing and you're not speaking much, perhaps the time we speak most is usually over the afternoon drink, when it's a time when it's acceptable to have a little exchange of ideas or views or experiences. But other than that, there's not much conversation going on anyway. So, no, I don't. Not really, any more than perhaps I miss my family at home, because of course that interaction would not be so much of a dharmic nature. So I don't miss the kind of interaction and conversations that I'd be having if I was in my home country surrounded by family, which would not be relevant to practice at all. And I would find simply distracting, if not even disturbing, to be talking of, all of the things that people talk of whom aren't living either in a monastery, in a sangha, albeit fluid, or alone in solitude, as I am here. Yeah, so someone's commenting that it's hard to enjoy hard times, but you believe it takes time. Where I was referring to, we can even begin to accept suffering, and I might have said enjoy it, but you can enjoy the knowing that it's coming to an end, which is more what I was referring to. And yes, it does take time. This entire practice is a time, I wouldn't say time consuming, practice. It takes time to develop these qualities. It's not time consuming because we have this time anyway, and this practice goes in conjunction, alongside, interweaved with all of our everyday activities. So we use all experiences and aspects of our ordinary lives to apply to the Dharma. So when we see something happening we don't like, we see it as us having a judgment of that and not liking it, choosing to not like it. Someone else might like it, therefore their judgment, their perception is different to yours. Seeing this clearly is identifying cause and effect, the causes and conditions which are there causing suffering. The desire not to have something you don't like, or the desire to have something or more of what you like. It takes time. Some others may develop these qualities more quickly. This depends on your previous experience, or not so in this lifetime. One can attribute it to experience of practice in previous lives. What does it mean? Sounds beautiful. What? What does what mean? I didn't copy that bit. So I actually give you a link to the chanting book. So it must be the chanting. All of the English, if you go back to, if there's a playlist, or I think there's a section in, yes, a playlist on the channel, chanting. If you go back to India time, I used to chant in the last Vasa, so some 7 months ago, English and Pali. So all of the chanting I do, I chant in English as well. Either just in English or just in Pali. It says in the title English and Pali. You can listen to those and therefore get a translation that way, or you can get the chanting book that I usually recommend, which is the Wat Marp Jan chanting book, and that link is I've sent it to you, and if anyone else requires it, then either look in the old comments or ask me again and I'll send you the link. But just Google Wat Marp Jan chanting book, WAT MARP Jan JAN chanting book, and there's the English written out there. So a few people asked me for my email address, which I will gladly. Oh no, hang on. Which is in the I think it's in the channel description page. So I don't write it in the comments, because I think if you do that, it gets lots of spam or something like that coming. Computers can pick it up or something like that. So contact details, like my address, also it's there. It's freely available. Just Google English Buddhist Monk. But I don't reply to the comment saying this is my address, this is my email address, because of the, I don't know whether you get visiting spam, maybe, you know, I'm not sure, but maybe I shouldn't have said that. But I mean, I'm easily found. You just come to Sri Lanka and say, where's that foreign monk? And they'll point you, there aren't many foreign monks here, I don't think. They'll point you in my direction. But no, that's not the question. What's the question? I might have to study that with more care another time. It doesn't... Oh, another question about this... I won't. It's basically, I mentioned before that one should chant in the Pali, but knowing really what it means. And yes, of course, there's no sense in chanting words you don't understand. One should know what you're referring to. To some extent, I suppose there can be an advantage in chanting words you don't understand. It's an exercise of mindfulness and training of concentration and focus. But it's far better to understand when you're chanting the qualities, the 9 qualities of the Buddha, for instance, when chanting Itipiso, what that means. So again, I referred you to the Wat Mark Jan chanting book. Disturbance, I don't understand that. Will I please post a video on my life before Buddhism in England, and how did you get here? Do you feel enlightened? So I've spoken often, I think, about my previous life within this life, and it's a little bit in the channel description, or if not, I think each video description. For some reason you can't put very much words in the channel description, but you can in the video description, so it's there, a very short story of how I came to be here, which is, I think, sufficient and enough. I do make reference to it often, however, my previous life, where it's relevant, so keep watching these videos, and where it's useful, I'll draw comparisons to monastic life now to then. I came to become a monk because I realized that it was the path to happiness was renunciation, not acquisition, giving things up rather than acquiring. And I only realized this through experience, by giving things up, letting things go, putting things down, stop trying to get and acquire more. I started to feel some sense of relief, freedom, peace, calmness and happiness, contentment with less and less. And it progressed further to this end, to being a monk with very little indeed, from having quite a lot. So that's how that happened. Am I enlightened? We don't talk about our levels of attainment as bhikkhus, and enlightened is a very broad term. We can only practice ourselves to the best of our abilities, and should concentrate on our own achievements or attainments in the practice, and not worry about others. Obviously, listen to people whom seem to be talking from a place of experience, and seem, or at least, because I say seem, because you cannot know, you cannot watch someone 24 hours a day. No one can be watched 24 hours a day other than by yourself. You are your greatest teacher and critic, because you are with yourself 24 hours a day. So you'll know when you're enlightened. You'll know if you're not. You'll know if you're behaving badly. You'll know if you're behaving well. 24 hours a day. But when you go to live with people in communities, you get a good idea as to their level of attainment, but there's no need ever to directly talk about it. So, 20 past. this I'm going to put with another question. I'm sort of running out of time, so I'm thinking something that's not going to be too long. Okay, this is a good short one. I've not seen a video showing stroke instructing how to stand up properly as a monk. Not that we are monks, however, it seems like a great life skill. Does it? Right, there's no set way to stand up. However, the Buddha taught us that our practice is in 4 postures: sitting, standing, walking and lying down. And one must make the transition between sitting, so for instance this way, sitting, and standing mindfully. That means you're maintaining mindfulness not only during the sitting posture or standing posture, referring to standing being standing meditation, where you just stand in one place, and walking. Maybe you're referring to standing meditation, and there aren't many videos on that, because really it's just standing. It's also not very popular. Oh, popular is the wrong word. It's better to be sitting or walking. Standing just comes in between. So you have to stand in order to get up to walk. And when you're walking, you stop, you're standing for a moment, you're turning slowly, and you're walking back the other direction. So standing is incorporated during our daily activities also, when waiting. And one must pay great attention and mindfulness to this as a posture. It's an opportunity to bring your awareness back to the body, the soles of the feet, the posture, the straightness, the erect spine, the levelness of the body. In terms of you're referring to actually how to stand up, you're perhaps referring from the transition from sitting here to getting up. We and all should try to do this also mindfully. Therefore, thinking about each move before you make it, and moving efficiently. When I say that, I mean without straining muscles unnecessarily, but without using unnecessary movements or actions. Avoiding, in monk's case, putting our hands on the floor to get up is perhaps written somewhere in the Vinaya as a kind of a guideline. But so I'm not sure it's a specific rule. It isn't in the Patimokkha, one of our particular precepts, that we mustn't put our hands on the floor to stand up, but we should stand up mindfully. And if we're going, putting our hands all over the floor like this and huffing and puffing, you're perhaps losing a little bit control over your mindfulness, because really what's happening is you're just expressing the exertion of getting up, rather than using that your mindfulness to make the process of getting up a fluid and smooth process. So as we're at the end of the video, we'll call this the video sharing and instructing you how to stand up. And as a monk, I will show you as how I stand up, because you cannot help but see it. But I think I disappear in my top half when I stand up because of where the camera is. That's as far as it will go, as far as I won't make a whole video on just standing up. But think of it as transition. We should move from each posture, sitting, standing, walking, lying down, mindfully. Mindfulness isn't exclusive to just the posture. It continues throughout all of our daily activities without stop. This is the goal. So that includes from here to there, which is the process of standing up. So on that note, I will endeavour now to stand up mindfully. I hope there's something in here today that is useful. If not, just let it go. Don't let it bother you. And thank you for watching. Until next time, be happy and stay well. Sukhi Hotu.